Captain Elias Thorne stood alone in the quiet memorial garden. Around him, tall trees swayed in the wind. The sky was soft and golden, the sun slowly falling behind the hills. This place was made for people who were lost in the Orion Wars. Their names were carved on smooth stones, one for each person. He stood in front of a small grave marker. The stone was simple and gray. On it, words were carved clearly. Dr. Mara Lynn, 2093, 23114, brave scientist, loving wife, lost among the stars. Elias held a white flower in his hand. His eyes looked tired, and his face showed sadness that he had carried for many years. He bent down and placed the flower on the ground near the stone. "I thought I was ready for this," he said softly. "But it still hurts." He stayed silent for a moment. The only sound was the wind moving through the leaves. "You were always the brave one, Mara," he continued. "You studied aliens when others feared them. You believed we could learn from them. You went out there to make peace, and you never came back." His voice broke a little, but he didn't cry. He had cried before. Too many times. "They told me your ship was destroyed, that no one survived. I waited anyway. I hoped they were wrong. But years passed, and you never returned." He took a deep breath and looked at the stone. "So now I'm saying goodbye. I didn't want to, but I must. I can't carry this pain forever." He stood up slowly. The garden was quiet again, a peaceful place, filled with memories and love. He turned to leave. Then he felt it, a soft touch on his shoulder. He froze. It was gentle, light, like a feather. He turned around slowly, thinking maybe it was the wind, or maybe a person visiting another grave. What he saw made him stop breathing. It was her Mara. She stood just a few steps away, looking at him with wide eyes. Her face was pale but full of emotion. Her dark hair was longer than before. She wore a smooth silver outfit that shone faintly in the sunlight. It was not like anything people wore on Earth. Elias stared. His mind couldn't believe it. He whispered, "Her name. Mara?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, it's me, Elias." He stepped closer, still unsure. He reached out and touched her hand. It was warm, real. "You're alive?" he said, almost in shock. "But how?" They said you were gone." Mara looked down for a moment, then she spoke. "They thought I was gone, so did I. But I wasn't dead, Elias. I was taken." "Taken?" he asked, confused. "Yes. I'll explain everything," she said. "But please, believe me. I've been trying to come back for a long time." Elias looked at her closely. She had changed. Her eyes had a faint silver glow. Her skin seemed lighter, almost brighter. He didn't care. She was here. He pulled her into a tight hug, and for the first time in years, he felt alive again. They sat on a wooden bench in the garden. The sky turned darker as the sun disappeared. A few stars began to shine above them. Mara held Elias's hand while she told her story. "I was on a research mission near the Jenna moon," she said. "We found strange signals, energy patterns that didn't match any known alien tech. We went to investigate. That's when we were pulled in." "Pulled? In by what?" Elias asked. "I don't know what it was, some kind of light. It wasn't like anything we'd seen. We couldn't move. The ship was frozen in place, and then everything went white. I woke up in a new place, somewhere far from here." Elias listened without speaking. He had heard many strange things during the war, but nothing like this. "I wasn't alone," Mara continued. "There were beings there. They looked like moving light. Their bodies changed shape all the time. They didn't talk with words. They spoke through thoughts, feeling, flashes of color." "Aliens?" Elias asked. "Yes, I later learned their name. They called themselves the Sileran. They didn't hurt me, but they didn't let me go, either. They studied me, asked questions in my mind. They were curious about humans." Elias looked at her closely. "How long were you with them?" "I don't know," she said. "It felt like years, Time moved differently there, I lost track. And then, one of them, different from the others, began to help me. It was like it understood me more. It taught me how to control the thoughts they shared, how to protect my mind. And then one day it helped me escape. Elias was silent for a moment, then he asked, "How did you get back?" They had ships, smooth, fast, and quiet. That being helped me use one. I landed on a moon near Mars. A human patrol found me, but they didn't believe I was who I said I was. They thought I was a fake. I escaped. She looked at him sadly. "I knew you would be here today. I remembered this date. I came straight here." Elias shook his head slowly. It was hard to believe, but she was real. She was here. He felt it in his heart. "I don't care how strange it sounds," he said. "You're alive, that's enough." But Mara didn't smile. Her face grew serious. "There's more," she said. "What is it?" "They didn't just study me, Elias. They changed me." He looked at her with concern. "Changed how?" She touched her chest. "My DNA, my body. I can sense things now. I can hear thoughts if I focus. I can feel emotions from others like waves." Elias was quiet, trying to understand. "They did this to me," she said softly. "But I don't think I was the first. I think they've done this before." "You mean?" "I think some of them are already here. Blending in. Watching. Waiting." A cold feeling passed through Elias. His soldier's instincts returned. The war had ended, but maybe a new one was beginning. He stood up and held out his hand. "We'll figure this out, together." Mara took his hand and stood beside him. Together they walked away from the grave, not with sorrow but with purpose. A new journey was beginning. Marlin sat quietly in the small room of Elias's home. It was the first safe place she had been in for a long time. The walls were painted soft blue, and there was a bookshelf full of old science books and photos. She ran her fingers gently across a framed photo of her and Elias on their wedding day. She was back, but nothing was the same. Elias stood near the window, looking out at the street. It was peaceful. People walked by, unaware that something strange had just returned to their world. "She's alive," he whispered to himself again, still trying to believe it. Mara turned to him. "I know this is hard to understand. Even I don't know all the answers yet." He walked toward her and sat beside her. "You said they changed you. What did they do exactly?" She took a deep breath. "They studied me at first. They wanted to understand how humans think, feel, and dream. The Silurian don't dream, Elias. They don't even sleep the way we do. I think that's why they were so curious." "What do they look like?" he asked. "They don't really have faces," she said slowly. "They're made of light and moving color. Their shape changes all the time, but they understand emotions. That's how they talk. They show feelings like sadness or curiosity by changing their color and light patterns." Elias looked down at her hands. "And you said one of them helped you?" "Yes," she nodded. "It wasn't like the others. It felt more human. It tried to protect me, taught me how to hide my thoughts from the others, taught me how to change my body. Just a little at first." Elias looked surprised. "Change your body?" "My DNA is not the same anymore," Mara said. "They didn't force it, they offered. I agreed, hoping it would help me escape. It did, but now I'm different. I can feel things before they happen. I can tell when someone is lying. I even sense danger." Elias looked at her carefully. "Can you still think like a human?" She gave him a small smile. "Yes. I still love coffee, remember silly songs, and miss warm blankets. I'm still me, Elias, but there's more inside me now." He reached for her hand and held it tightly. "Whatever's different, you're still my wife." She squeezed his hand, but her smile slowly faded. "There's something else," she said, voice low. "What is it?" "I saw something while I was there. The Siluran have done this before, taken others. They study different species. They test ideas. And now I think they're doing something new. Elias leaned forward, alert. What kind of something? I believe they've started sending their own into human society, she said. They can change their form to look like us, not perfectly, but enough to blend in for short periods. They're watching. Elias frowned. Are you saying they're here? On Earth? Mara nodded. Not many, but yes. I think they're testing us, learning how we react, how we live, maybe planning something. Elias stood and began pacing. His military mind was already working. Why didn't the patrol who found you believe you? He asked. They scanned my DNA, she replied. It didn't match Earth records. They thought I was a clone or some kind of copy. They kept me in a holding station, then questioned me for hours. I could feel they didn't trust me. So I escaped. How? I used the gift the Siluran gave me. I calmed the guard's mind. He fell asleep in seconds. I walked out quietly. Elias stopped and turned to her. That's not normal. I know, she said. And I don't like using it. But I had to. Get back to you. There was silence in the room. Outside, a soft wind blew through the trees. The sun was setting again. We need proof, Elias finally said. If they're here, we need to show the world. Mara looked down. That won't be easy. They hide well. But I might be able to sense them. Then we'll start with that, Elias said. Tomorrow, tonight you rest. Mara nodded. Her body felt tired. She hadn't truly rested since her return. That night, Mara lay in bed while Elias sat on the edge watching her sleep. He still couldn't believe it. After 3 long years, the woman he loved had returned. But with her came something dangerous. Something he didn't understand yet. In the middle of the night, she woke suddenly, her eyes wide. Elias was instantly alert. What's wrong? He asked. There's someone outside, she said, her voice calm but tense. Elias grabbed a small scanner from his drawer and walked to the window. At first, nothing seemed unusual. But then he saw a figure standing across the street, barely visible under a streetlight. A man, or at least something that looked like one. He didn't move. Just stared. Mara stepped beside Elias. That's not a man. Elias looked at her. Are you sure? She nodded. I can feel it. The emotions are wrong. Too cold. Too still. Elias turned off the light in the room. Get back, he whispered. The figure outside didn't move. Then slowly it turned and walked away down the street. Mara let out a breath. He wasn't ready to act yet. Just watching. Like I said. Elias's jaw tightened. We can't wait. We need to act first. The next morning, Elias contacted an old friend from his time in the Galactic Defense Corps. His name was Commander Holt, now in charge of a private science base near the Mars colony. Holt was smart, careful, and trusted Elias with his life. Meet us at the old station near Vega Field. Elias told him through the secure line. We've got something big. Elias didn't tell him everything. Not yet. But he trusted Holt to listen. Before leaving Earth, Mara and Elias stopped at the garden, one last time. They stood in front of the stone that had once marked her grave. Elias looked at her and said, Should we tell them to remove it? She smiled softly. No. Let it stay. Let the old me rest. A new life is just beginning. They left Earth behind, traveling in a small ship Elias had kept hidden after retiring. The stars welcomed them once again, but this time they weren't explorers. They were defenders, and the fight was just beginning. The old station near Vega Field looked abandoned. Rust covered parts of the roof and many lights were broken. A cold wind blew dust across the empty landing pad, but deep below the ground, the station was still alive. Captain Elias Thorne and Mara Lynn stepped out of their small ship. Mara looked around carefully. Her eyes scanned the area, her senses sharp. Someone is nearby, she said softly. Elias nodded. It's him, Moments later, a tall man in a black coat walked out from a hidden door. His steps were slow but firm. His name was Commander Holt, Elias's oldest friend. He gave Elias a short smile and opened his arms. "Still wearing that same jacket, I see." Elias smiled and hugged him. "It's lucky." Holt looked at Mara. "So this is your ghost? The one the system says died 3 years ago?" Mara stepped forward and held out her hand. "I understand how strange this is, but I'm real. I came back. Changed, yes, but I am who I was." Holt shook her hand. He looked into her eyes for a long second, then gave a slow nod. "We don't have time for long stories. You said it was urgent?" Elias answered, "It's more than urgent. It's about Earth and what's coming." Inside the command room, Mara told Holt everything. About the Siluran, about their strange energy, about the changes they made to her body and mind, about the being that helped her escape. Holt listened carefully. He didn't interrupt once. When she finished, he leaned back in his chair. "Do you have proof?" "Not yet," Mara said. "But last night we saw one. It was watching us. It didn't act, but I could feel it didn't belong," Elias added. "They're already here, hiding, studying us." Holt looked serious. "If this is true, then we may be facing something we've never seen before." "They don't fight with weapons," Mara said. "They use thoughts, feelings, confusion. They can change their shape, make people forget, make people believe lies." Elias pointed to the screen. "If we wait, they'll spread silently. They may already be inside our systems, our cities. And no one will know." Holt stood and walked over to the control panel. He pressed a few buttons and opened a map of Earth on the large screen. "If we want to find them, we need to start where the energy is wrong." "Energy?" Mara asked. Holt nodded. "When the Siluran arrive, they must use some kind of power. If we track strange spikes, places where physics behave oddly, we may find a path." He looked back at Mara. "Can you help us detect them?" She closed her eyes. "If I'm close enough, yes, I can feel them." "Good," Holt said. "We'll start scanning now." For the next 2 days, the station's systems worked non-stop. Computers searched for strange signals, heat patterns, light shifts, anything unnatural. Mara sat in a quiet room, focusing. She reached out with her mind. Every hour she felt small pulses, like distant whispers. Then, on the 3rd day, she opened her eyes quickly. "I found one, near the old mining colony in Alaska." Elias and Holt pulled up the area's data. There had been strange reports from that zone, equipment shutting down, workers feeling dizzy. A few even claimed to see strange lights. "That's our place," Elias said. They prepared for the mission. Holt gave them light armor and basic tools. "Keep it quiet," he warned. "If they know we're looking for them, they may disappear again." Mara nodded. "We have to move fast." The Alaska colony was cold and quiet. Snow covered the buildings. The sun barely rose over the mountains. Mara, Elias, and Holt moved carefully through the area. Mara stopped near a power station. Her eyes narrowed. "Something's here." Elias looked around. "I don't see anyone." "You won't," she said. "But I feel them." Suddenly, a low hum filled the air. Lights flickered. The wind stopped moving. Then a shimmer appeared in the air like heat rising from the ground. A shape formed. At first it looked like a man. Tall, thin, wearing a dark coat. But his eyes glowed faint, blue, and his skin flickered like light. Elias raised his hand. "Don't move!" The being looked at them. Its voice came not from its mouth but from the air itself. "You should not have followed. You break the balance." Mara stepped forward. "You are Siluran. Why are you here?" The being's voice echoed. "We study, we watch, we prepare." "For what?" Holt asked. The being tilted its head. "For choice. You change too fast. You destroy. We must see if your kind will survive." Or need control? Elias stepped closer. You mean to take over? Not take. Guide. Shape. You are not ready to lead alone. Mara's voice was calm but strong. You don't understand us. Humans grow by learning from mistakes. We don't need control. We need freedom. The being shimmered again, its shape blurred. You are dangerous. She should not have returned. Elias raised his weapon. Stay away from her. The being raised a hand. Light swirled in the air, and Elias fell to his knees. His head hurt. His vision blurred. Mara cried out, "Stop!" She focused her mind. A bright wave of energy rushed from her hands. The air cracked like thunder. The being stumbled back, flickering wildly. Holt helped Elias stand. What did you do? He asked Mara. I used what they gave me, she said. But more than that, I used who I am. The being stood again, now unstable. Its form was breaking. This is not over. With a flash, the being vanished. The air was quiet again. Elias stood slowly. That was just one. Mara nodded. But now we know we can fight them. Back at the base, Holt looked at the team. We need to find the others. And we need to warn Earth's leaders, Elias said. They won't believe us without proof. Mara stepped forward. Then we'll get it, together. The silent invasion had begun. But humanity was no longer alone. Mara Lynn had returned, and this time she was ready to lead the fight. Mara Lynn stood in front of the large screen at the underground base near Vega Field. A blue map of Earth slowly turned in front of her eyes. Red dots blinked in different parts of the world, each one a place where strange energy had been found. We found 12 signals in the last 48 hours, Commander Holt said, pointing to the map. If these are Siluran agents, they're spreading fast. Elias Thorne walked in with 2 cups of hot tea. He gave one to Mara and sat beside her. They're not just spreading, Mara said. They're choosing key areas. Communication, hubs, energy plants, science labs. They're getting ready for something big. Holt rubbed his forehead. And no one else sees it. To them it looks like system errors, random accidents, or sick workers. They're using minds, not machines, Mara said quietly. They twist thoughts, they don't destroy cities, they confuse leaders. Elias looked at the screen. So how do we fight them? Mara stood up. We fight them with our minds. 2 days later, the team left for Geneva, where the Global Communication Corps was located. It was one of the most important places on Earth, controlling satellite data, emergency systems, and deep space channels. If the Siluran take that place, Elias said on the flight, they could cut Earth off from the stars and confuse every system on the planet. As they entered the city, Mara felt it again, that cold pulse in her mind. They're here, she said softly. Inside the building, everything looked normal. People walked through clean white halls. Techs ran reports. Screens blinked with numbers and graphs, but something felt wrong. The guards at the front checked IDs and let them pass. Holt used his special clearance to get them into the central control room. That's where Mara stopped. She pointed to a young woman sitting at a console. Her hair was tied back, and her fingers moved quickly over the keyboard. But her eyes didn't blink, not once. She's not human, Mara whispered. Holt walked over. Excuse me, can I speak with you? The woman looked up. Her face smiled, but her eyes stayed cold. Of course, Commander Holt. How can I help? Mara stepped forward and said firmly, What's your name? The woman paused for half a second. My name is Technician Dana Wells. Holt looked at Elias. That pause was a signal. No, it's not, Mara said. Dana Wells died 6 months ago in a shuttle accident. The being's eyes narrowed. Then suddenly the lights in the room blinked out, alarms rang, and the woman stood up slowly, her skin flickering like a broken image. You are not ready, the voice echoed in the room. It came from nowhere and everywhere. Elias shouted, Shut down the console. Technicians ran to disconnect the main systems. Sparks flew. Smoke rose from one of the side panels. Mara stepped forward. "You don't belong here. Leave these people." The Siluran's form changed. Its arms turned into light. Its head became a smooth white sphere with no features. Mara closed her eyes and reached out with her thoughts. Calm. Strength. Truth. She pushed those feelings forward. The being stopped moving. Its light flickered. Its shape twisted like smoke in wind. Suddenly it let out a silent cry and vanished in a flash of white. The alarms stopped. The lights came back. Everyone stared in silence. Elias ran to Mara. "Are you okay?" She nodded slowly. "They're afraid of something," Holt asked. "Afraid of what?" Mara looked up. "Afraid of us waking up." Back at the base, the team studied the event. They found traces of Siluran code inside the Geneva systems. Strange patterns. Messages that weren't human. "They're sending signals," Elias said. "Not just to each other, but maybe to their world." Holt crossed his arms. "They're preparing Earth for a takeover." Mara looked thoughtful. "No, it's not just about power. It's about control of thought. They believe they're helping. They think humans are too wild, too fast, too dangerous." "They want to fix us?" Elias asked. "Yes," she said, "by making us forget who we are." The next mission took them to the Orbital Science Array, a space station near Earth's orbit. It held deep research, human experiments, and contact with outer colonies. When the team arrived, they were met by a man named Dr. Ren Kova, the chief scientist. He welcomed them with a smile. But something about him made Mara feel uneasy. His emotions didn't match his face. That night, Mara couldn't sleep. She walked through the station halls, quiet and dark. She found Dr. Kova alone in the lab, standing in front of a mirror, talking to it. Not to himself, but to something inside. She stepped closer. "Dr. Kova?" He turned slowly. His face changed. The skin rippled like water. "You should not be here," the voice said. Not his, but the same strange voice from Geneva. Mara stood tall. "You can't hide anymore. We're waking up. Humanity is not weak. We don't need your control." Dr. Kova's body began to glow. The lights flickered. Glass cracked, but Mara stepped forward. She reached out and placed her hand on his shoulder. "Listen," she whispered. "You don't have to destroy us. Learn with us. Don't fear what you don't understand." The light began to slow. The glow faded. The being looked at her, and then slowly dropped to its knees. Elias and Holt rushed in. Mara stood calmly. "I reached him," she said. "Not with power, but with peace." Holt looked surprised. "You didn't fight?" "No," she said softly. I reminded him of something they forgot. Compassion. After that, everything began to change. Not all Siluran left peacefully. Some still tried to take control, but others began to show signs of change, softness in their light, warmth in their minds. A few even helped remove the others. Holt started a new task force, Mind Watch, a group of humans and reformed Siluran, working together to protect Earth. Elias returned home with Mara. They stood again by the grave that had once marked her death. She touched the stone and smiled. "Let this stay. It reminds me of the day I was born again." Elias held her hand. "And the day I got you back." They walked away, not as soldier and scientist, but as symbols of a new hope. A war of the mind had been fought, not with fire, but with understanding. The stars were quiet that night. The earth spun slowly below, covered in soft clouds and city lights. From the observation window of the space station, Mara Lynn stood in silence. Her hands rested on the glass. Her thoughts stretched far beyond the stars. It had been 3 weeks since the last Siluran presence was removed from Earth's systems. Some vanished without a trace. Others surrendered peacefully. A few stayed to help humanity understand what had happened. The Mind Watch task force had grown quickly. It now included scientists, pilots, peacekeepers, and 2 Siluran beings who had chosen to stay in their new, calm forms. One of them, a being who called herself Lunari, was now sitting beside Mara. "You are peaceful tonight," Lunari said in a voice like soft wind. Mara smiled gently. "I'm thinking about the past and the future." Lunari tilted her head. "You have questions?" "Yes," Mara said. "Why now? Why did your kind come at this time?" Lunari looked out the window. "You were waking up. Your minds were growing, and our leaders feared what might come next. But you don't fear us anymore?" Lunari turned to her. "Some of us never did. We only feared your pain. Your history is full of war, loss, and anger. We did not understand that healing can come through struggle." Mara nodded. "It's not perfect, but it's real." On Earth, Elias Thorne was working in the new Interstellar Communication Center. Large dishes turned toward the stars. Machines hummed softly. Engineers walked between glowing panels. Holt entered the room with a small box in his hands. "Is it ready?" Elias asked. "Yes," Holt said. "It's all set. We just need your message." Elias looked at the microphone. A message that would be sent beyond the solar system. A signal strong enough to reach faraway planets. A message not just from Earth, but from all of humanity. Elias cleared his throat. He thought about everything. Mara's return, the Siluran's plan, and how they fought not with hate, but with hope. Then he spoke. "This is Earth. We are not perfect. We have made mistakes, but we are learning. We welcome peace. We protect freedom. We remember pain, but we choose kindness. If you hear this, know that we are ready to listen. Come as friends. Leave as family." Holt nodded slowly. "Good words, Thorne." Elias smiled. "They're not just mine. They belong to all of us now." The message was sent. Into the stars. Into the unknown. Meanwhile, Mara and Lunari stood before a large round table inside the Mind Watch council room. Holograms of cities floated in the air, some human, some Siluran, and some newly built together. Leaders from around the world joined through screens, people of all kinds, old, young, scientists, workers, thinkers. The goal was simple: decide the future. "We must build trust," Holt said. "The Siluran didn't destroy us, they challenged us. And now we must prove we can rise above fear." One scientist asked, "Can we really live beside a species that once tried to control our thoughts?" Mara answered calmly, "They didn't try to destroy us. They thought they were helping, but we showed them another way. And some chose to stay, to learn. That choice matters." Lunari added, "We are not gods. We are not masters. We are travelers, like you. We made a mistake, and now we seek balance." The room was silent for a moment. Then one by one the leaders agreed. A new alliance was formed, the Human-Siluran Accord, not based on fear, but built on understanding. 1 week later, Mara and Elias visited the place where it all began. The old grave, still standing under the tree, the name Mara Lynn carved in the stone. She stood quietly, her fingers brushing the cold letters. "This place should remain," she said. "As a reminder," Elias asked. "A reminder of what?" Mara looked up at the sky. "That even death is not the end, that even the darkest night can lead to light." He took her hand. "You came back to me." "And you waited," she whispered. A gentle breeze moved through the leaves. The same wind that blew the day she returned. They stood there for a long time. 2 souls who had lost each other and found each other again. In the months that followed, Earth began to change. The world didn't forget the invasion, but it grew stronger. Because of it, Humans became more careful with their thoughts, more kind in their choices, more curious in their questions. The Siluran taught humans about mind-link technology. And humans taught them about emotions, about love, courage, and laughter. Together, they built a new kind of future, one where thoughts and hearts worked together, one where difference didn't cause fear, but wonder. 1 year later, a new station was launched into deep space. It was called Hope's Voice. It carried the Earth's message far into the galaxy. Not just words, but music, images, stories. Proof of life, proof of growth. Mara and Elias stood inside the control room as the signal was sent once more. Lunari joined them. "I feel it," she said, closing her eyes. "A response may come one day." Elias looked out at the stars. "And when it does," Mara answered, "we'll be ready." That night, back on Earth, Mara walked alone in the fields near her home. The stars were bright. Suddenly, she stopped. Soft feeling brushed her mind. A presence. A whisper. Not Siluran, not human, but something new. Something watching. And then, a gentle voice in her thoughts. "We heard you." Her eyes filled with light, and she smiled, not with fear, but with hope. The end.